if you're anything like me, then you took one look at the ROME Remastered requirements and went, 70 gigs? What is this, Red Dead Redemption 2? A lot of you guys who watch my channel play Total War Rome 2, and you might be wondering to yourself, Jesus, can I even run ROME Remastered? And the answer is, not necessarily. Today, Feral announced lowered system requirements on the official Total War Discord, and we're going to go over them right now and compare them to Total War Rome 2's. So, the minimum requirements are Windows 10 64-bit, an Intel i3 series processor or an AMD FX 4000 series processor, 6 gigabytes of RAM, a NVIDIA GTX 600 series with at least 1 gigabyte of video memory, or an AMD HD 7000 series with at least 1 gigabyte of video memory. Also, you can have a Intel UHD 620 integrated card, and that will apparently run it. DirectX 11, and 45 gigabytes of available hard drive space. Now, importantly here, they note that integrated graphics chipsets require 8 gigabytes of RAM. Example, the Intel UHD or HD series. However, estimated performance on low settings at 1080p with 66% gameplay resolution is 30 FPS. Also, they caveat it by saying frame rate may drop in large-scale graphic-intensive battles. So, before we move on, I need to address something here. This is key. 66% gameplay resolution scaling? Okay. For those who don't know, what that means is that you're playing the game, so you run the game at your native monitor resolution at usually 1080p or something similar. And then if you run the game at 66% of that, your game's going to look like absolute trash. Okay? I'm going to demonstrate it here in a minute, but before we do, we're going to move on to the recommended requirements. So, the recommended specs are Windows 10, of course, 64-bit, Core i5 4570 or a Ryzen 5 1600, 8 gigabytes of RAM, a GTX 770 4GB or Radeon R9 290 4GB, DirectX 11, and again 45 gigabytes of additional or available hard drive space. Now, with these settings, you're expected to get 60 FPS on high settings at 1080p. And of course, the frame rate may drop in large-scale graphic-intensive battles. That's much more reasonable here. 60 FPS 1080p is definitely like the standard. So, before we move on and talk about the gameplay resolution scaling that I was talking about earlier, let's take a look at Rome 2's requirements. So, Windows XP, Vista, Windows 7, Windows 8. 2 GHz dual-core processor or a 2.6 GHz single-core processor. 2 gigabytes of RAM. 2 gigabytes. That's compared to 6 for the remaster. A 512 megabyte DirectX 9.0C compatible graphics card. And 35 gigabytes of hard drive space. Now this bit here is definitely misleading because the game is not 35 gigabytes anymore. It's like 50, I believe. So that's definitely a little bit misleading. And the recommended requirements for Rome 2 are 2nd gen Intel Intel Core i5 processor, 4 gigabytes of RAM, so lower than the minimum requirements for Rome Remastered. 1 gigabyte of VRAM, DirectX 11 compatible graphics card, and again 35 gigabytes of hard drive space. Now, these are significantly lower than the Rome Remastered minimum requirements, guys. So if you're barely scraping by on Rome 2, you genuinely might struggle to run Rome Remastered. Even with these lowered requirements. Now, how did it go from 70 gigabytes to 45 gigabytes? They did that by breaking it up. So now if you want Ultra HD textures, you can download a separate 35 gigabyte download that gives you the Ultra HD textures, and that saves you the massive amount of hard drive space that it requires. So that's one way that you can, if you don't care about having super duper high resolution textures, you can just do the 35 gigabyte version. 45 gigabyte version. I'm glad that they did that because 70 gigabytes is insane. I mean, I'm going to do the 70 gigabyte version myself just because I want to see the game in all of its glory and what they've done. But I'll let you guys know if I think it's worth it in my full Rome Remastered review that will be coming shortly after the game launches and I put enough time into it. Now, we're going to talk about that resolution scaling issue because I honestly think this might be a bit misleading. All right, 30 FPS is definitely playable for a strategy game. No question about it. It's definitely way below what I would want to play on, but it's playable. It's not a shooter. You don't need to have super duper high FPS to enjoy a strategy game like Total War. But this gameplay resolution scaling, guys. All right, I'm going to launch game now and show you guys just how terrible gameplay resolution scaling can be. So here we are playing Assassin's Creed Odyssey at 1080p, my monitor's native resolution, on a mix of medium and high graphics settings. Now, it's a pretty good looking game. But let me show you what happens when I turn the resolution scaling down to 66%. Alright, we can only do 60%, so why don't we just do 70% because we'll round up here, just to be fair to Feral. Holy cow. This looks like Vaseline was smeared all over the screen. This looks absolutely terrible. So, look, if you're looking at it right now and you're saying to yourself, well, wait a minute, that's not that bad. I could probably deal with that. Then, okay. Then you're not going to have an issue. But for me, personally, resolution is the very last setting that you should ever want to turn down. You should turn down every single setting you possibly can before you start touching and playing around with the resolution, because anything below your monitor's native resolution is always going to look a lot worse than running at native. But again, if you're looking at this and you're saying to yourself, look, I could deal with this, this isn't terrible, then hey, good for you. Your mileage may vary. But I think personally that it's a bit misleading for them to make the minimum requirements based on running the game at 66% of your monitor's native resolution. So there we have it. Those are Rome Remastered's latest system requirements 2 days before the game drops. Now, in my full review for the game, I will be covering performance and I will compare it to Rome 2. So rest assured, if you guys are still on the fence, there will be more Rome Remastered related performance content on this channel coming forward. So I hope that helps you out, guys. Again, if you're barely running Rome Total War 2, then I don't know. I would hold off and wait and see. Take a wait and see approach with this game. That's my thoughts on it, but of course, you do you guys. Anyways, thank you very much for watching. I hope this helped you guys. If it did, leave a like, leave a comment, and subscribe for more Total War Rome 2 and Total War Rome Remastered content. Take care.